Okay, now we're getting to part three about racism in America. And if you haven't seen part one or two, you can go to the very end of this one. It'll be in your top right hand corner as number one, and you can start over through the series. At the end of this one, in the top left hand corner, we'll go to part four. Let's continue here from where we're at and people's disconnection with reality. Let's continue.
66% of the population or the audience, TV audience, is Caucasian, and they don't have a channel that specifically emphasizes their culture. But yeah, Hispanic and African Americans do. That's a really hard question.
It's not really a hard question. What we're talking about here is the amount of, if people are given enough um, black history, and we have Black History Month, there's black entertainment channels and stuff like that, although I think one of those fall under BET, of course, though, fell under a lot of problems because they were showing black people that blacks were actually people of Egypt, that they were Hannibal, that they were all of these people that they weren't, and it was causing a false racism where they were getting all mad trying to believe this superhero crap that never really happened. And I don't know whatever happened out of that. Is BET still going real well? But the problem that we're having here is that, yeah, there's a lot of Mexican stations, but there's not one that just says white. Well, all of them are white. Oh, really? All of them are everybody. And then there's blacks and stuff, but there's not a white one. There's not. Well, let's continue.
We don't study the history of slavery in Africa.
We do study the history of slavery in Africa.
So they do study
but
in
we
school.
It's more, we study facts and what happened. We don't learn stories.
That's weird. We learn facts and what happened. We don't learn stories. Whenever we study history the other way, it's what I do. I definitely know that what you learn is facts and dates and things, and very few connective stories. Very few connective stories. Do you want to hear a story about Kunta Kinte, which was an illegal ripoff by Alex Haley on a white man's book that really had no truth or basis in fact? In fact, he got sued for slander or whatever it is, and what's the word? It starts with a P. Anyhow, and he stole that plot that they had in there. A lot of the names, places, everything. It really had nothing to do with his actual family lineage, believe it or not. Well, it's a dream on what blacks might have gone through. Yeah, it's a black dream on it. Whites weren't running around with nets trying to chase black people. They were capturing and selling their own people off as unwanted for beads and alcohol or less, like a drive-through slave mart. And the white guilt thing has gone way out the door. We're trying to take primitives and raise them up to a common level, and we're having a hard problem with it. And what's hilarious is they're blaming it on us, and they don't have a mirror for a damn one of them to look into. Let's continue. Can you name any public figure that's racist? Oh, they're gonna say Donald Trump. Or oh yeah, no. Can you even name one that's not? Now I can name black people that are easily, totally. Any black leader is totally racist, but the white leaders are for the world. Isn't that amazing difference in disconnected mentality there again too? Let's go.
And with all this racism that permeates our country today, I thought it would be easy for people to come up with the name of a public figure who was racist. It wasn't. Of the 50 or so people I interviewed on camera that see racism daily, none could come up with the name of a public figure that was racist. I had to offer a suggestion myself, admittedly to stimulate conversation.
So let's see how this works.
I would say Jesse Jackson is not a racist at all. He fights against racism. He fights for peace. He wants justice, and he tries to do what he can to.
Jesse Jackson is a racist. He tried to make up a fake racist trial where a Jesse Smollett bullshit was happening back in the late 50s, early 60s. He's a hustler and a race baiter. If you look at him back then, he had the smooth down, fakey white hair, pimpy acting crazy ass. And he really doesn't have a good connect to what's going on in the world. he tries to find a racist angle on everything out of his mouth. And what's funny here is, I believe she was asked if there's any racism, show me a public official that's racist. You're supposed to be, as a black person, grabbing a white person and saying, see, they did this, they did that. Her first thing is to defend black racists. Let's continue.
Bring together that justice and peace. And he wants people to be united as well.
No, he doesn't.
As far as Reverend Jesse's reaction using racism as profit, like I say, he's a man, a good man, and he has done some things that probably aren't proud of. But he sticks by what he does.
Do I think
so? If you do racist things and then stick by them, then he's a good man, and he's not a racist. Let's continue.
Jesse Jackson's racist? I guess I don't. I guess I don't. I think he's an advocate for black people, and I was going to say his people.
What about a white advocate? Would that be okay? Oh no, that's got to be a KKK hat all of a sudden. How is that cognition working in your mind right now? That if a white was a nationalist over his own country and proud of his own country, putting his hand over his heart and not going to a knee, that somehow that is racist against the other people that aren't part of that weren't we the people? How does that cognating work well with everybody?
I think that's an important role.
Virtue signaling.
But I've never thought of him as a racist.
So you said that being an advocate for his people, for black people, is a good thing.
I do think that.
Can you name an advocate for white people?
Try.
Can I name an advocate for white people?
Yes. You can name a few black ones. Malcolm X and all the things.
Specifically for white people?
Yeah. Anybody who tries to do anything for white people. Right.
Catch that? Being an advocate for one's racial group is an important role, as long as one's racial group is not white people. The very idea of being an advocate for white people is offensive.
It's racist if you like your own people. Only if you're white, though. If you're any other color, then it's totally okay to embrace yourself. But whites can't be happy about being spacemen and having led mankind to this very day. That's an odd thing.
Mostly to those calling others racists.
Yep.
I got the impression on the mall, they have Nicollet Mall in Minneapolis, that it's like this mall here. They want to keep black people off of the mall. There's a lot of white guys up and down 16th Street Mall that are soliciting, and that pisses me off, because I've been, at one point in my life, where I was penniless and didn't have anything. I never panhandled. I never begged for money. And that pisses me off. So I told the guy solicited me yesterday, happened to be a white guy. If he's a black guy, I'd be pissed off too. I told him, I said, I think the welfare department's right down there.
So now you have a black man who is affluent enough, who got asked for money, just like blacks come up and ask for money all the time, gas stations and things, in an affluent neighborhood, and you see the reaction that he gets towards a white person. Was that racist?
That's another thing that pisses me off. I did everything I was supposed to do, never broke the law, always tried to work for a living, and I still get treated like a second-class citizen. I risk my life for my country.
Who's treating him?
Who's treating him like a second-class citizen? Somebody just act like you were well off enough to perhaps help me out, sir. I'm sure he didn't go up and say, hey, N-word. You know, there's what the hell is going on with these people's mentality? You know, seriously, just to be honest with you, if the racism was going on at the level that black people seem to think they wish that it was, black people wouldn't exist in America. If white people thought the same way about blacks that blacks think about whites right now to this day, they wouldn't exist. And I think that shows you the disconnect of everything. Let's continue.
Like a second-class citizen?
Mostly white males.
I do believe that our culture is racist.
Who's it in benefit of?
White males.
White males?
Yeah.
But you mentioned the racism. Where's the racism in this?
The racism is he's paying particular close attention to me because I'm in the company, my girlfriend's white, and I'm in the company of a white woman.
This isn't a dance club?
Yeah.
A disco? Because you ever see a situation where African-American men might try to intimidate white men in that same situation?
Yeah, but not as much.
Not as much?
It doesn't happen.
Oh, not as much. Although I've never heard of it going the other way, but I'm sure that it does and was agreeing with it earlier. But he doesn't agree that it goes the other way and that it doesn't happen as much, and that justifies it.
As much.
I've seen a lot of black people make white people uncomfortable. And sometimes I don't know if it's so much racism or sometimes it's just that they want to get back at what they consider to be the man.
One of the things that happens in America is that anything that happens to white people from another race is generally not looked upon as a hate crime. In a lot of ways, it looks as retaliation.
You may be uncomfortable, you piss my parents off, and you know, I grew up in this country, now it's my chance to get you back.
There's you a sad mentality, and that I think just shows you, comes out of a low IQ guy like that very easily. You piss my parents off. I did that. I did that. My parents did that. Were they part of the piss off? Are you saying my parents when you're really talking about my great grandparents who were pissed off from being pulled into a brave new world they didn't know existed? Is that what we're going with? Are you pissed off at people that didn't have anything to do with what you're talking about and you can't let it go? Is the mentality, you made my mammy mad and now I'm gonna hurt any white person and blame it on them? Is this illegality in their minds? Let's continue.
This is more of today's conventional wisdom in our conversation. When whites mistreat people of color, it's always racism. But when whites are victims, we must step back. We have to look deeper for the root causes of said mistreatment. A glaring double standard. Are white people right to be a little afraid of blacks?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah?
They intimidate them because now it's more interracial.
You know, it's kind of, I don't
No,
know.
wait a second. The Filipinos are looking for money. And what did you say? The other one?
Like Jewish people are there, you know, they're cheap. I mean, everybody has like their own stereotypes.
Give me some more of those. What other
I don't know. I can't.
Black people.
Black people were criminals.
And so now we're to that. We're just looking at stereotypes. He thought he'd bring that up or whatever. You know, Jews are cheap, this, that, and the other. Anybody ever been a waitress? Want to talk about how black people tip? Even when dressed as nice as that man who likes to go out with white women? Anybody? No? Let's continue. Crime.
That's a hard question. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one, actually.
If I were to hear someone say African Americans are committing more crimes than whites, I would not be offended because it's true. I see it on the news. When you turn on the news, it's mainly an African American who.
Yet if it's ever mentioned on some of my videos, they try to throw a big fit about it and say that it's not true. Then they'll show you some report. Now what's odd is every time that this report is given, what they're not figuring in the fact of is that blacks are 13% of the population and whites are 65. So there's 5 times almost as many whites, at least 4 times as many whites as there is blacks. So there should be 4 times as much crime as out of whites as there is blacks for it to be even. In other words, if it was 10% theirs, it'd be 40% ours. What we have in America is 54% of the crime is created by blacks, when they're only 13% of the population. That sounds egregious, doesn't it? Well, let's break it down even more. You take 1% of those that are pretty much incarcerated and out of the situation because they're not doing it, although they did do something. It wasn't this year. Therefore, they're kind of out of the situation. Then you take all the unwed black mothers and so on, and because there's more women than men in the black population due to them killing each other and other reasons, and of course populations have float, but due to that fact, 6%, so less than half of that 13 is actually the black males, and they're causing most, like 95% of that crime. It's not black women. Therefore, as much. Therefore, you would say there's 6% of the population causing 54% of the crime, or close to it. If we took out the other portion, then that would be that. The other bad factor is whenever we figure in whites in America, we're figuring in Spanish people and Mexicans because they are Caucasians, and in doing so, it screws up our numbers. If we took it from Caucasians, Mexicans, and Negroes, you're going to see a much different set of numbers. Let's continue.
And shooter to home did a drive-by shooting, gang-related drug bust. So that's all you see pretty much is African American crime. So no, I would not be offended, but I would agree.
If you're thinking of a black person, and the stereotype you've ingrained in your head is this, this person is maybe a criminal.
Why do African Americans get the bad rep?
Because we do the most crucial stuff right here. We're just like on that point where like if we want to do something, we'll do it and not think twice about it and just go out there and do it again and again, or do it even more worse than we did before.
African Americans are involved in gangs, they're involved in drugs, they're involved with just the street life.
If someone were to feel that blacks are more criminally inclined than whites, would they have any justification for that?
Unfortunately, I think yes.
I don't feel like I have to go through all this racism stuff because I'm African American.
Now, what would you say to the guy that says, hey, you know what, African Americans commit half the crimes in this country. Of course we should look at it more carefully.
Yeah. I mean, we do some crime around here, but I'm not going to say we do half the crime.
First question, he realized that they do a lot of it. He was kind of taking pride in it. You saw it. We do it, yeah, it's us, we's. Now he's like, damn, and so he's going to try to back off of it a little bit. Let's continue.
Yeah, African Americans are like that, but it's not all African Americans around here doing all the crime like that.
So not all. This was the beginning. By the way, I have to mention again, this is from 12 years ago or so. So this is the beginning of a lot of this too. This is 12 years ago. This isn't last week. This is then. This is the starting of the Obama administration. So here we have the not all showing up as being an excuse for an egregious amount in your people. The other thing is to try to point fingers and say what happened before, or hundreds of years ago, or anything else, rather than to take a mirror and go, damn, okay, we need to do something about that. Let's continue.
There's all sorts of other ethnicities that do all that.
If you were a taxpayer, and you
Uh-huh.
heard about somebody breaking into a house, how would you feel if you saw the cops beating them down?
Big conflict.
On some real shit, I don't know. I'll probably try to tell them take that to the courts, because I don't see how they gonna beat somebody up. Yeah, they broke into a house, they was in the wrongdoing, but at that same point, you can't just beat somebody up because they broke into a house.
How
about if they start fighting the cops? How about if things get out of hand? How about if somebody else was in the house and they were being raped at the time? How about 1,001 scenarios? How about cops have a better idea of what they should do and protect themselves than maybe you do? But let's continue. Here's the question.
Broke into your house.
If they broke into my house, I'll kill them.
Now, what would you...
Strange. So he tells you what should happen to black people, because that was probably in his mind, if cops catch you trying to steal from other people and ruin their lives. But what would you do? Oh, he'd just kill the son of a bitch. It wouldn't even be a beat up. you see how he would have a different standard than he will allow other people to have. Let's just be clear about all this.
You say to the guy that says, you're making the definition of a criminal.
Well, I already know I'm a criminal. I've been locked up since I was 11.
Oh, wow.
But you say the cops are racist, but yet you're saying you're a criminal.
I'm a criminal, but yeah, on that same note, when we're not doing nothing, that's when they want to come up here and fuck with us.
Most of the violent crime.
So you got to catch me right now and not later, or I'm not a criminal. That guy doesn't have a great future ahead of him, and he knows it, and he's not trying to get out of that either. Let's continue.
Crimes are committed by white males. I mean, who are all the mass murderers out here?
Oh, they're gonna try to throw that.
All of them.
Yeah, all of the mass murders. Not all. No, we just had a couple of black people that were losing their job go ape shit and kill everybody. And it just happened down in Florida again, where we had this shooting, killed 12 people and so on. Another black guy changed his position up at work and didn't like it, thought he'd come in and kill everybody. Yeah, so we're not going to try to justify anything like that. There's also so many more people than that killed every weekend in Chicago and Detroit and so on for stupid things like shoes or I thought you wanted my girl and things like that. So let's not try to justify by trying to say, hey, there was these couple of big things white people did and then that justifies all of the idiocy over here. That's not the way that works.
Mass murderers you're saying are white?
Majority of them.
Majority.
All Hispanic.
How about the majority of the armed robbers and the rapists? Aren't they black?
No.
Oh, no, they're not.
I don't think so.
He doesn't think so, but though they are. In fact, it gets a multiplication factor, just like I spoke of before, where you're looking at 6 or 7%, but then you figure out that 7% is doing this, and this is the amount of rapes. Oh my gosh. And the sad thing is they're raping white women and so on. Let's continue.
A common debating tactic of the believers is to flat out deny facts that we all know to be true. When Martin employs this tactic, he places the burden of proof upon me, knowing full well what a distasteful job it would be researching rape statistics.
They try this tactic a lot. 100 times a day. Less than 10 in a year. Less than 10 in a year, over 100 per day out of this group that's only 7% of the population or less. 100 per day, 10 per year, 6 times the amount of whites. This isn't very cool, people. And this is a sexual thing that apparently is a big problem with the black people because of their admixed. Now they blame it on slave masters and stuff, but really there's a uniform a Caucasian admix in blacks, and that was done by Jewish slave masters, and a completely disgusting thing where they took apparently Irish women and women of Caucasians and mulattoed them and then bred them back to each other, trying to make a more competent Negro. Yeah, it's kind of documented, but well held behind. But if you had that slave master, there would be popcorn of big numbers, but it's not, and people have noticed this. It's 22% across the board, and it all shows up this same lineage of ethnology, and it's not Jewish either. Blacks aren't part of the Bible, of course, and they didn't know Egypt existed, but you hear a lot of that nowadays too. This adds to their racist hate whitey. They're really getting disgusting with all of this type, but look at this. This is 12 years ago.
This shocking fact is one of many not reported to the American public. We're bombarded with messages telling us that racism is evil. But if selecting people for discrimination based on their skin color is racism, and it's a bad thing, well, isn't selecting people for rape because of their skin color also a bad thing? In fact, isn't it a much worse thing? And that's quite another disconnect. In other words, the conventional wisdom on racism says that I should be concerned when I hear that somewhere a white person might be persecuting someone because of their skin color. I should make it my business. Yet, God forbid that I become concerned when I hear that white women are being raped because of their skin color 100 times a day, right now in America. Well, we know what happens to people concerned about those facts. They get stereotyped as haters, and their opinions have no place in the public forum.
Isn't that a strange turn of events? If whites can't defend themselves now, and they can't defend their women, you can't critique a black person, and they go yip yip like crazy. They make up racism by their own hands, and then get mad about it. Then they interact to do something, then they wind themselves all up, and then they go out and beat up and rape a white woman. That's just fantastic. Isn't it?
Contradictions starting to become visible.
You mentioned you use a term, people of color. So who are not the people of color?
Well, I would say white people are not people of color.
Okay.
Is it possible for a black to be racist?
Yes.
It is
How
possible.
many of us would keep using this word, racism, if we found out that to a good many people it can only really mean one thing? A bad white person.
Yep, hate whitey. Hate whitey.
Have I been a racist?
Virtue signal.
I like to think not. But, and I hope not.
I think that all of us growing up in this culture and in this life are a little bit racist. Am I aware of my racism? Yeah. I'm aware of my racism. Aware a lot of people I don't think are.
The conflict.
Being a beautiful white woman, would you date a black man? Would you have the inclination to want to? If somebody posed that question to you, would you feel like you were being a racist if you didn't say that you would like to go out with black people, that you would like to ruin your white heritage and mulatto it out with some other ethnicity? Let's say it's a man from India. Let's say it's a man from China, any place other than that. Okay, now how about black people? Would that be? You see, it's a strange, twisted thing. But is it racist if they want to mulatto themselves out of their own existence and they don't like the black yakety-mouthed woman anymore? Is that our fault? No, it's not our fault either. Okay, and what are we to do about it when you're raping our women? Let's continue.
Is you don't want to be a racist because you're black.
Are you a racist?
No.
Don't want to be a racist because you're black. That was kind of strange. I guarantee you this is 12 years later and blacks want to be racist. They definitely want to. If you don't think so, look at the comments on my last 50 videos. I ended up to debunk it. I've made a bunch of debunk videos and they really don't like that. But the strange thing is I can make a video about flowers in Iceland and they're gonna come in and start yapping and saying things about black people. Yeah, now they're just all mad and cocked up and just want to yell and just want to, oh, it's disgusting as hell. Yeah, and they keep trying to prove in my videos that even though the video proves black people weren't in Egypt, that they were in Egypt. Then the people that say they were in Egypt say they weren't part of that Bible crap. That's some whitey thing. Then you have the other guy get on and the Bible was ours. We weren't in that whitey Egypt. We were kings. We were the Bible. You see, and so then they can fight amongst themselves about their lies because neither one of them had to do with Negroes. But that's just one simple facet. Then you prove that to them. Then they want to say white cave beast Neanderthal bullshit. And that's not racist, but if you say, hey, stupid Negro, blah, 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 I've actually had them say, me saying Negroids is racist, you white Neanderthal cave ape. I'm like, oh, that's a giggle right there. That's hilarious, Negro. Yeah, you can see the mentality. And where is it getting them? Where is it getting them? Nowhere. Backing up fast, throwing it in reverse and punching it. Let's continue.
Not at all. At least that I know.
Have you ever been a racist yourself?
No.
Never been?
No.
On a 1 to 10, 10 being a lot, 1 being a little, how much racism is there in America today?
How much racism? Oh no, ask the cuckly SJW girl that's been whipped into submission. Let's see what she thinks here. What do y'all think right now? What do y'all think? Is she gonna say it's better now, it's a 3, or is she gonna just go pegging it? What do you think? Here, let's see what she says.
Day.
I'd say about a 9.
About a 9.
About a
So you say
9.
racism is just everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah, I believe it is, but I mean, I haven't experienced it myself.
She's never experienced it herself, but she believes it at a 9. If you said, well, whenever we had them as slaves, that would have been a 10, right? So a 9 has to be extremely close to that. And so breathe in and breathe out, and now give me a number that you think might represent something logical, you ditzy bitch. But no, she doesn't have an actual context to even put it into. This is just going off feelings. Let's continue. She believes.
At one point in any conversation about race, one issue must be addressed, and it is a touchy one. But the answer to this question is paramount if we want our conversation to be objective.
America never was a white nation.
Never.
Never. It was never a white nation.
People try to pull this BS. America was never a white nation. I'm going to pre-interject to this whole conversation he goes into the fact that we damn well know Caucasians came across the Bering Ice Bridge before any of the Amerindians did now. They were the tails of the people that had the light hair and blonde hair they ran into before. They were in fact their gods. Viracocha was said to be blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and had beards. Amerindians don't grow beards. That's all the way down in South America. Pizarro was heralded as such whenever he came back. So it looks like there was some interaction there that helped to herald them into becoming at least a little bit less primitive. Although we know when we showed up with the Amerindians, they were quite primitive, right? Right primitive? Well, when we showed up to the Negroids, they were much less advanced than that, but they don't want that admission. They didn't have the wheel or riding or anything along that line, and now they want to be considered totally equal to the spaceman. While we've made laws that say they're all about the same, the difference is extremely evident. They can jump a basketball a little faster, and we can herald mankind and do everything else that mankind has made. We no longer need to jump just a hair farther because we've made devices that make it to where we can jump farther than that. We no longer need to run quite that fast because we can get on a bike and pass anybody up. Now I'm going to put a motor on it. Zoom, watch me go. Hey, mommy, look, no hands, I can fly. Let's continue. Was America ever a white nation?
Get to whose country it was, who's the Native Americans. Caucasians came and took that land from them.
Europeans. Europeans stole their land.
Matter of fact, this isn't even their country. They came and took a country, from people that opened their arms to them with love, and they deceived them.
The Indians didn't open their arms with love, and he has no clue how all of that went down and how the blacks having smallpox because they'd never been interacted with people before that had been through it caused a smallpox outbreak up, which does show that they never were the Egyptians or anybody of the Nord Levant in the Bible because they had already been through it, and all of Europe had too with the plagues and so on. So therefore it kind of shows you that, but also the Amerindians had never been contacted to it, and that broke out in quite a bad way there at epidemic levels, and we didn't get to even meet most of the Amerindians. But let me tell you, all the little contracts we made with them were pretty much, in a majority, honored by whites and destroyed by the Indians in some way, shape, or form, and then that caused problems. It's kind of like the lynching situation where you're not supposed to rape white women, and if you did, people didn't wait for a court. Of course, they want to throw that in your face, and it's like, oh, was he a model citizen? They don't want to have that. It was trying to really snap something into them with an idea of, you've got to quit this. And we're still at that point. You apparently heard the egregious amount of rape differential, just one stat, rape differential in America, much less the other stats that we have.
American Indians were oppressed and slaughtered and drugged by the Europeans.
They were here. This was their land. I'm not sure how they got here, or if they fought anyone.
What would you say to somebody who said every...
So he's not sure if they got her, if they fought anyone. So were there people here before? Yeah, there's signs of people here before. And what were those? Oh, they're Caucasians. In fact, their genetics are showing up. Yeah, they're Europeoid, Anatolian type, Proto-Indo-Europeans that I've been showing a lot of videos about. Yeah. And there was a one-way journey to it. And that's because they never came back, and that's for a lot of other reasons. But they were the first Amerindians. But are we going to go with cuckle hate over the fact that whites found a country that was done by primitives and then taken over? Could have been done in Africa. The black people may not exist today. A decision was made, definitely a decision was made to not be that way in any shape or form. I don't look at it even to this day as a mistake, but some people start to, because of actions and interactions like this that shouldn't even be going on. Why would somebody have to put up with this type of rampant BS? Let's continue as we finish off this Indian concept and in this portion of it.
Founding citizen of the United States of America was white.
I think that's a tough one.
What would you call a nation where every single citizen was white and where immigration was restricted to white Christians? Would that be a white nation? Why does this matter? Are we a white nation any longer? Once again, because of the disconnect, because of the anti-white bias that lies within the conventional wisdom on racism. Once again, if you accept the fact that America was founded as a white nation, then you must also accept the fact that her founding principles, which separate America from all other nations, were also developed by white men, not by a multicultural rainbow.
And we the people were not anybody but the Caucasians. Blacks, actually, to be honest with you, were not considered human at that time, or people, as to say. They weren't in that definition, as to say, whenever they said we the people, they weren't talking about Negroids or anyone else. And yeah, it was founded, and there were restrictions on who was supposed to come in at first and all these type of things. That's been changed slightly, but that doesn't all of a sudden say, well, oh, they gave up America. No, the hell we did. We decided a lot of things. We wanted to let ethnics in here. It's our decision. And the idea was they were supposed to learn from us and perhaps go back and help their own people, and we become this great hippie world that was envisioned by everybody, but it won't be